I'm in LA and this is not my normal content, but I haven't been back here in forever. And it's crazy to come back here years later, a totally new person. I used to live here in my early 20s. I went to college at USC. It was great. Then I lived in LA for several years after that. And I was journaling last night and I started getting emotional and feeling really uncomfortable and weird. And I realized it's because I haven't been back to LA since I lived here before. I was a totally different person. And quite frankly, it was the worst years of my life. It was really, really hard. That was when I dealt with the passing of my mother and then all of my health issues that came soon after that, which is of course not a coincidence. But I started getting so emotional last night because my life looks completely different than it used to. Feels completely different. I'm a different person. And I say that with all positive connotations. And I was thinking last night about all of the things, like the really important things that actually brought me to where I am today. And I figured I would share those with you guys. Like, what is actually the important stuff? The things that actually move the needle and will change your life. Okay, so one, you are not always going to have your whole life figured out. The only thing you need is the next action step. And so many people hold themselves back because they don't know the full plan. But you will never have the full plan. And by the way, if you do have a full plan, it's probably going to change anyways. Your only goal is to take that next action step. And that action step will always lead to something else, then something else to something else, right? If you are trying to get to Z, you have to go through A, B, C, D, E, F, G first. But if you don't ever go on A, I know this doesn't make any sense, but if you don't ever go on A, then you will never ever get to Z. You won't see the path to Z. So my point is that sometimes the action has to come before the clarity, and the clarity comes after the action. If you want your life to change, you have to do something different. The people who win and the people who eventually create their dream life are the people who take action consistently in the ways that feel good and aligned. Number two, you have to make sure that the action you are taking and the path that you are going down aligns with your values for what you want in your life. And I know that that sounds so obvious, but this is actually something that many people don't realize that they're not fully doing. Like I said, you don't need to know your whole path forward, but you do need to know your values, because then you can look at those actions and say, does that align with my values and what I actually want for my life in the future? So for example, if something that is a really important value to you is having freedom and being able to do what you want with your days and making passive income, for example, being able to do it from wherever you want, then you're probably not going to be putting all this time and effort into advancing your corporate job because it doesn't actually align with your values, and you will put that time and effort somewhere else. So many people build a business and all they're thinking about is, how do I make more money? How do I make more money in the short term? But if you are creating a business that doesn't actually align with the values and the way that you want to live, then in the future, you're just setting yourself up for misery. I see so many people doing this in business all the time. They start releasing offerings or things that they don't want to do at all, and they end up accidentally creating this business that they want to get rid of. Business is a really clear example of this, but you can think about this in any context. If family is something that is incredibly important to you, and having children and being home with them, then you want to make sure that your action steps and the things that you are taking always align with those values. It's really easy to get caught up in other things and ignore them. Number three, your nervous system doesn't care to make you happy. All it's trying to do is to make you safe and keep you in a familiar zone. But think about it. Whatever is your dream life is your dream, right? So it's probably unfamiliar to you. So if you allow your nervous system to just let you stay in that familiar zone, then you will never actually get to the places that you want to go. You have to lean into the unfamiliar, and sometimes leaning into the unfamiliar means leaning into anxiety. I think so often in our society, we think of anxiety as this bad thing, that something is wrong. And yes, anxiety can be like a big range, right? From mild to severe. But sometimes anxiety is just a signal that you are in the unfamiliar, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a lot of power and magic in indifference. You feel a little anxiety, but you don't let it mean anything. I can't tell you whether that thing that you're feeling is anxiety or your intuition telling you to not do something. You are the only person that can answer that question. But so often in our modern society, we fear any sort of discomfort. But if you are going to expand into that next level, there will be moments of discomfort, not because it's bad, not because it's not meant for you, not because you're doing it wrong, but simply because it's unfamiliar, and your nervous system tells you, communicates to you through your body that if this is unfamiliar, then it might be dangerous and we should avoid it. That's good when it's a sketchy, dark alley, when your body is telling you don't walk there. But it's not good when you are trying to learn to be in relationships with healthy men, or learning how to start your own business, or when you're trying to level up your life in any sort of way. That anxiety is not always a bad thing. Something that I just did recently that's really pushed me outside of my comfort zone is, for the first time ever, I joined this like business mastermind thing, which is really expensive. It's like a lot of money, and then you spend time with other people, other women in business who are making a lot of money. You share and you learn things together and all that. And I remember telling my husband, I was thinking about joining, and I was like, I want to be the dumbest and the poorest person in the room, because that is how you grow and expand. You put yourself into new environments. That's my next point. You put yourself into new environments, into environments that have what you want, where that is normal, where that is familiar. But when you put yourself in those environments, okay, when you are the dumbest and the poorest person in the room, how do you think that makes you feel? I don't know about you, but that makes me anxious. It's not comfortable. But in those moments where I know that my anxiety and my discomfort is just because I'm in unfamiliar territory and I'm upgrading, I use the power of indifference. Indifference. I swear, a quarter of the time these girls are talking about like their business and stuff, I have no idea what they're saying. I literally don't even know what they're saying, but that's how you upgrade. You let yourself be uncomfortable, and it doesn't have to mean anything. It doesn't have to mean that you're in danger. It doesn't have to mean that, oh my God, you're anxious and there's something wrong with you. And lastly, patience. I think a lot of people don't want to hear that. I think they want to think that everything in their life can just completely shift overnight and quantum leap. And I've talked about quantum leaping on here. I have a whole video on it. It's actually very good. I'll link it up here if you want to watch it. But quantum leaping is not what people think it is. It's not that they wake up one morning and, oh my God, their entire reality is different, and now I live in France and I own a croissant shop. Quantum leaping is when everything changes in an instant because your frequency shifts, because your attention shifts, because your emotional state shifts. But sometimes when it comes to our physical reality, good things take time. And I do think that the universe rewards people who are patient. The way that things often work is it feels like nothing is working, I'm not really making that much progress towards my goals. And then all of a sudden you realize it's working. That explosive, all of a sudden growth that you see with other people is almost never all of a sudden. I don't know if you've heard the bamboo metaphor, but this is exactly what I mean. So basically, when you plant bamboo, years 1 through 4, nothing happens. Nothing happens up top. A bunch of stuff is happening beneath the soil, right? It's building this massive, complex root system underground. But then once that foundation is complete in year 5, it just shoots up and it grows like 80 feet in a few weeks. I think a lot of people are not willing to stay the course with what they want and devote themselves to their goals and to their values. And I think sometimes people get scared that something isn't working out right away. And so then they pivot, and there's nothing wrong with taking feedback, and sometimes pivots are necessary. But also a lot of people quit way too early. They quit when they are building all of that foundation, the complex root system in the soil. And it's doing something. All of their hard work, their consistency, it's doing something, but you just can't really see it and feel it yet. It's a lot easier to stay consistent and not quit and keep going when whatever goals you have are actually really meaningful to you and are something you care about and bring you satisfaction. Sometimes the goals that we set for ourselves are not actually goals that we care about. We just see other people doing it, so we decide to do it. Or we see this other girl making a bunch of money doing this one thing, so we decide to do it, but we don't actually align with that at all, and that doesn't feel fun to me at all. I know this is a bit of a ramble, but if you want what you want, if you want your dream life, all of these things are important and relevant. Living here in LA was literally the hardest, worst years of my life. LA as a city is fine. I mean, the traffic sucks. But besides that, it's pretty good. But I moved from LA because I knew I wanted to change my life and I desperately needed to elevate and change my life. And honestly, one of the quickest ways to do that is to move. So it's just very interesting and nostalgic. It kind of brings back all of those memories. It makes me uncomfortable, honestly, a little bit because I think about who I was and how I felt when I lived here. And right now I'm staying at a hotel in Bel Air and it's like so beautiful. But I remember in college, Cole and I, my husband, we would go through and on the weekends we would drive through Bel Air and Beverly Hills and look at all of the nice homes. We would just drive around and admire all of the expensive homes. And we decided that that was the type of life that we were going to have one day. Now, granted, your plans can change. We didn't want to live in LA or Beverly Hills anymore. Life sometimes throws shit at you and sometimes circumstances happen, but I'm a big believer that if you want it, you can have it. So I hope you enjoyed these ramblings. I hope that they were helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.